Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. It started the second I walked through the door. My mom had picked this fancy burger place downtown. Some old print shop they turned into a rustic chic nightmare. Edison bulbs, exposed brick, long reclaimed wood tables full of men who probably named their dogs after stock tickers. My name's Amy Ruiz. I'm 37 from Kansas City, and I don't do Friday night dinners unless I'm guilted into them. Tonight was one of those nights. Dan was already there, my brother, 2 years younger, 5 inches taller, and never missed a chance to talk over me. He'd brought his usual crew, Chad, Vince, and Trevor, all of them in button-ups way too tight across the chest, smelling like leather wallets and overpriced whiskey. Their laughs were loud, and their cufflinks flashed every time they raised a glass. I didn't say hi, just pulled out the empty chair at the end and sat down. My shirt was a plain gray button-down. No earrings, no makeup. I wasn't there to perform. "Hey, stranger," my mom said, handing me a menu. "Try the bison burger. It's supposed to be leaner." I nodded, didn't open it. The conversation rolled without me. Gym stories, dogs with Instagram accounts, somebody's new personal best on a rowing machine. I didn't care. I kept my eyes on the water ring my glass made on the table. Then Dan turned to me, voice raised just enough to pull everyone in. "So, Amy," he said, grinning like he'd been holding this in all night. "You still retired from playing firefighter or thinking about trying again?" I didn't move. He leaned back, swirled his drink. All that training, all that talk, then poof, washed out. "What was it, 3 months?" Vince snorted. Trevor laughed too loud. Even Mom gave this tight little smile like it was just a harmless jab. I stared at my hands. My knuckles still held calluses, even after a year. Funny how long those stick around. No one ever asked why I left, not once. Quick note, before we get into it, tell us where you're watching from. What city or country are you in right now? Chad raised his glass and toasted to something. I didn't catch it. I wasn't listening. I was remembering the reason I'd walked away from the job I bled for, and how not one of them had ever cared enough to ask. I reached for my water, took a sip, and waited. Because I already knew one of them was going to do something stupid, and I wasn't going to let it slide. Trevor was mid-laugh when the waitress came by. She couldn't have been older than 20. Petite, hair in a tight ponytail, shoulders hunched like she was already used to ducking hands and dodging comments. She had a tray balanced in one hand, waters, silverware, one tall glass of something pink and ridiculous. She leaned just slightly to slide a coaster under Vince's glass. That's when Trevor grabbed her. He reached behind her like he was helping steady the tray, but his hand landed square on her waist. His fingers pressed in. Not a soft touch, a grab, possessive, smirking like he'd earned it. She stiffened instantly. I saw the tray wobble, but she didn't drop it. She just froze, shoulders locking up tight, eyes darting toward Dan, then my mom, then back to the tray like maybe if she kept moving, it would all pass. Nobody moved. Chad laughed into his glass. "Easy, Trev, you're scaring her." Vince leaned in close and muttered something I didn't catch. Whatever it was, it made Trevor grin wider. He still hadn't let go. I stood up, quiet, focused. Dan glanced at me, annoyed. "What now?" I stepped behind Trevor, fast but calm like muscle memory. My left hand slid down his arm, fingers locking around his wrist. My right hand came up under his elbow. I rotated his shoulder back, twisted at the joint, and pulled. He was on the ground before he knew what happened. Tray hit the floor, glass shattered. A lemon wedge rolled under the table. Trevor groaned, holding his shoulder and swearing. Vince lunged, stupid move. I pivoted, used his own momentum. His hip hit the edge of the chair, then his face cracked against the leg as he went down hard. He made this choking grunt, like the wind had left his body and taken his brain with it. Chad hesitated. The first smart move of the night. His eyes went wide. He made a break for it, tried to push past me. I swept his legs clean with my foot and dropped him on his back. His head thunked the floor. He rolled and curled, gasping like he'd been sucker punched by the air itself. 15 seconds. That's all it took. 3 grown men, slumped and wheezing on hardwood. Dan sat frozen, fork halfway to his mouth, staring like he'd never seen a real woman in his life. The restaurant had gone dead silent. A chair creaked behind me. Somewhere, a knife hit a plate. Phones came out. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." The waitress had backed up against the wall, eyes wide. Her tray was on the floor next to the broken glass. She didn't speak, just clutched her apron with both hands like it was going to hold her together. My mom had her hand over her mouth, frozen. Nobody helped the guys. Trevor was on one knee now, clutching his shoulder like I'd broken it. "You're insane," he spat. "You freaking lunatic." I didn't look at him. I crouched next to the waitress. "You okay?" She nodded. Fast, lips pressed tight. She couldn't speak yet. Behind me, Vince groaned and tried to sit up. Chad rolled to his knees, dazed. Not one of them had a clue what just happened. That was the part that pissed me off. They weren't afraid. They were confused. They'd never been stopped before. Phones were already out. I could hear video shutters snapping open. A guy across the aisle hit record without even trying to hide it. His girlfriend smacked his arm, but she didn't stop him. Trevor staggered back, red-faced, eyes blazing. "She's crazy." She just snapped. Vince leaned on the table, bleeding from somewhere near his eyebrow. "She lost it, man." Psycho. Just went full Rambo. Chad was still on his ass, blinking like a man who just woke up in someone else's shoes. Dan stood now, hand up like he was the authority in the room. "Everyone calm down, okay? She's been off lately, since she left the firehouse. Stress stuff, maybe PTSD. I didn't look at him. Didn't say a word. I could feel my pulse steadying, breath smooth. My hands were back at my sides, loose, controlled, not shaking, not one bit. The waitress was still beside me. She stepped forward, voice low but clear. "He grabbed me," she said. "She stopped him." Dan tried to speak again, but the manager came over. Tall guy, maybe late 50s, clean haircut, dark blue button-up. He looked from the broken glass to the three men on the floor to me, then the girl. "What happened?" he asked her. She didn't flinch. "He grabbed me." The manager nodded. "Okay, give me a minute." 5 minutes later, the cops showed up. One was young, barely shaving, couldn't stop shifting on his heels. The other was older, silver hair, calm eyes. Body like he'd seen a lot and didn't react to much anymore. The older guy scanned the room, then looked straight at me. "Ma'am?" I nodded once. "Amy Ruiz," he motioned to the waitress. "That her?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "She helped me." Trevor tried to jump in again. "She freaking tackled us, man." "Assault." The officer didn't even blink. "Sit down, sir." Vince moaned louder. "My back's messed up." "You did that to yourself," I said, not moving. Dan raised both hands like he was making peace with a bomb. "Look, I'm just saying, Amy's had issues. Since she quit firefighting, there's history." The young cop looked at me like I had a ticking timer on my chest. The older one just said, "We're reviewing security footage." The manager was already there with a tablet. He handed it over. We all watched, clear as day. No yelling, no warning. Trevor's hand on the waitress's waist, her body freezing. My takedowns, clean, fast, efficient. No extra hits, no escalation, no chaos until the men moved first. The older cop nodded, then looked at the waitress. "You want to press charges?" "Yes," she said. No hesitation. "Against all three." The younger officer looked relieved to have a clear decision. They cuffed Trevor first. He cursed the whole time. Vince argued until he was wheezing. Chad didn't say a word, just looked down at the floor like he was trying to become it. Dan stood there, alone, hands still halfway up like someone was going to believe him if he kept trying. Then a few people clapped. Not loud, just a few tables. A woman near the window said, "About time." Nobody looked at Dan. Nobody came to his defense. Even Mom was quiet, pale, sitting stiff in her chair, fingers clutching her wine glass like it was a flotation device. The waitress stepped closer. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Thank you." I nodded. "You sure you're okay?" "I am now." Dan watched the cops walk his friends out in cuffs. He looked around, waiting for someone to make eye contact. No one did. For the first time in his life, my brother had no one to talk over. And he had nothing to say. Dan kept glancing at the door like someone was still coming to save him. No one did. I didn't wait around to watch them drag his friends out. I walked past the wreckage of spilled drinks and cracked glass, past the whispers, the camera phones, the eyes that weren't laughing anymore. I pushed open the door and stepped into the night air. The second it hit my face, it all came back. 2 years earlier, I was standing in full gear outside a burning warehouse off 18th and Troost. It was after midnight. Cold, dry, wind sharp enough to cut. I had a 6-person team on scene. I was the lead. The dispatcher said it was empty, just an old textile space. Unused, unsecured, probably squatters at worst. But the smoke was heavy, too thick, and there were toys in the alley out back. A tricycle, a tiny pink shoe. I hesitated. I should have waited. But backup was still 5 minutes out. The roof was already bowing. I gave the go. We breached the east side, moved fast, standard sweep. We found the woman near the back stairwell, curled over 2 kids. All 3 were already gone. Smoke inhalation. No one had even checked if anyone was inside before giving the all clear. I sat with the bodies until medics pulled them out. All I could think was how damn quiet it was inside that building. No screams, no noise, just heat and weight. I wrote the report exactly how it happened. No spin. No blame shifting. Just facts. Next morning, I was called in. My captain barely looked up from the file. "You did what you thought was best," he said, like he was trying to convince himself. Then came the HR rep, then the union guy, then the department shrank. Administrative leave, pending internal review. "Not a punishment," they said. "We just think you should take some time." 2 weeks later, they asked if I'd consider stepping down for the good of morale. I didn't answer. I just walked out. The night I came home, Dan was already halfway through a 6-pack, watching football in my mom's basement like nothing had changed since high school. He barely looked up. "Well, guess you couldn't handle the heat after all." I stopped halfway down the stairs. "What did you just say?" He shrugged. "Hey, I'm just saying. All that training, all that noise, and you're back here less than a year later. Kind of speaks for itself. I could have hit him." Instead, I turned around and walked straight back up. Mom was in the kitchen, pulling something from the oven. Lasagna, probably. She looked at me, eyebrows drawn tight, but not quite frowning. "I heard you left the department," she said. I nodded once. She didn't ask why. She didn't ask anything. Just sighed and said, "Amy's always been a little intense." Then she wiped her hands on a dish towel and went back to humming whatever song was playing in her head. That was it. No questions. No doubt. No room for truth. And after that, I didn't offer it. Not to them, not to anyone. I didn't even make it home before someone sent me the video. No caption. Just the link. The thumbnail was me standing over Trevor right after I dropped him. I clicked it, watched the 15 seconds unfold like I was back in that moment. The girl freezing, the grip, the fall, the silence after. By the time I got through the front door, my phone had 4 missed calls and 12 texts. By morning, it had 100. Firefighter dropout floors. 3 dudes in burger bar brawl was the headline I saw first. Someone screen grabbed my face mid-move and added flames behind it. Another turned it into a meme. When your trauma comes with training, some called me a psycho, said I was unstable, dangerous, probably off my meds. Others called me a hero. Wish I'd had someone like her at my first job. Then came the takes, Twitter threads, think pieces, podcast breakdowns. Everyone suddenly cared about the waitress, about how men act when they think no one's watching, about women who don't flinch. Fox News wanted an interview. So did Good Morning America. One podcast asked if I'd come on to talk about female rage in male spaces. I said no to all of it. Every single one. Dan tried to spin it, of course. I saw the messages. Friends from high school forwarding screenshots of him online, telling his version. She's always been protective, just got carried away. PTSD from firefighting, probably. Don't judge her too hard. She's not violent, she's just intense. But the footage was everywhere. Raw, clear, and final. Nobody was buying what Dan was selling. He looked like a clown trying to mop up a flood with a napkin. I didn't correct him. I didn't reply. I had better things to do. The cafe was tucked between a gas station and a hardware store. Small place, 2 tables inside, 1 out front. I parked around back and walked in. Jamie looked up from behind the counter and smiled. Not fake, not polite. Real. She came out wiping her hands on her apron. "You came," I nodded. "You asked." We sat by the window. No press, no phones. Just 2 women with matching bruises, mine on the inside, hers still healing around the edge of her voice. "You doing okay?" I asked. "Better now," she said. "I quit." Smart. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded brochure. EMT training. Kansas City program, 6 months. "I applied," she said, "because of you." I didn't say anything for a second. I just looked at her, all 5'2" of her, eyes steady, hands not shaking anymore. "You sure about this?" "Yeah," she said. "You didn't just stop them." You reminded me I'm allowed to stop things too. I looked out the window. Cars passed. No one was pointing cameras. No one was filming. I didn't need a crowd, just that one moment, that one ripple. A week after I met Jamie at the cafe, Dan's name started popping up in places he didn't want it. First, it was a Reddit thread, local entrepreneur subreddit, one of those mentor exposed types. Somebody posted screenshots from old Slack messages, him joking during a team call about how women don't make natural leaders and how emotional decisions wreck good businesses. His name was right there. No context, no defense. Then someone else jumped in. He used to laugh about his sister quitting the fire department. Called it inevitable, said she flamed out. That was the word he'd used, flamed. The comments rolled in fast, a mix of disgust and that smug internet glee people get when a self-proclaimed founder gets hit with his own bullshit. Someone tagged the nonprofit Dan mentored with. They ran a startup incubator for college grads, mostly women, ironically. By the end of the day, his face was gone from their website. 2 days later, their statement went up. We have ended our association with Dan Ruiz due to concerns brought to our attention regarding past comments that do not align with our values. It was clean, corporate, final. Dan didn't post anything himself, which was rare. He always had something to say. A quote, a counterpoint, a sarcastic deflection. This time, silence. Until the email. Subject line, I don't even know who you are anymore. I opened it, read it once. Amy, I don't get what's happening. You used to be someone I understood. Now I'm seeing all these videos and articles and posts, and it's like I don't recognize you. You've changed a lot. Or maybe you were always like this and just hid it better. I don't know. Either way, I guess I hope you're okay. Dan and I stared at the screen for a second. Not angry, not surprised, just tired. Because the truth was, he was right. He didn't know me. He never had. He knew the version that let him be louder. The one who stayed quiet when he joked. The one who made him look better by comparison. I archived the email without replying. No point reopening a door that was never really open to begin with. I stood up, stretched my legs, and poured myself a glass of water. The house was quiet. No news, no takes, no noise. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to defend who I was, or explain it, or soften it for anyone. Dan could keep wondering. I had other things to do. I was drying a mug when I heard the knock. 2 short, 1 long, always been her thing. I opened the door, and there was Mom, holding a glass dish wrapped in a towel like it was a newborn. The smell hit me first. Lasagna. Her version, heavy on the sausage, little burnt on the edges. I brought dinner, she said, like this was just another Tuesday. I stepped back, let her in. She didn't look around or comment on the house. Just walked to the kitchen, placed the dish on the counter, and pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse. I saw this in the paper, she said. Thought you might want it. She handed it to me. It was an op-ed from a retired fire captain out of St. Louis. Headline read, Amy Ruiz acted like any good firefighter should. I skimmed it. Clear, sharp writing. No fluff. Just someone who understood what it meant to act when everyone else froze. I folded the article and slid it onto the table. Mom pulled out 2 mugs from the cabinet like she owned the place. Tea bags, hot water, no asking. We sat down. For a minute, neither of us said anything. Then I looked up. I didn't tell you what happened at the warehouse. She didn't blink, just waited. It was supposed to be empty, dispatch confirmed. But when we went in, there was a woman. 2 kids, already gone. Her hand curled around the mug. She didn't look away. They tried to say I rushed it, that I panicked, but I didn't. I waited. I double-checked. I gave the order because the roof was starting to fail. Still nothing from her. They offered me admin leave, said morale was low. Said if I wrote the report different, it might help the department move forward. I sipped my tea, swallowed hard. I didn't change the report. That finally got her eyes to shift. She looked straight at me, not sad, not proud. Just there. Then she said, You didn't fail. They failed you simple, like it was just the truth. No analysis, no sugar. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. We sat like that for a while, drinking tea, not filling the silence. She reached over at one point and adjusted the coaster under her mug. Little twitch she's always done. Never lets them sit crooked. When she stood up to leave, she didn't hug me. Just grabbed her purse, nodded once, and said, I'll bring another one next week. That was it. Not a fix. Not forgiveness. But it felt like something cracked open, and light got in. The restaurant hadn't changed much. Same Edison bulbs, same polished wood, same smell of fried rosemary and overpriced whiskey. But right near the host stand, bolted into the old brick wall, was something new. A plaque, metal black with brass lettering, simple. For those who act when others don't. No names, no hashtags, no QR codes, just the words. Jamie was already there. She spotted me first, waved, then came over fast and gave me a hug. Tight, honest, no hesitation. She was in uniform now. Navy blue EMT trainee polo tucked into black pants. Hair pulled back, ID badge clipped to her hip. "You look good," I said. She grinned. "Exhausted and underpaid, but good." We both turned toward the plaque. "They put it up last night," she said. "Quietly? No press? I like that." I watched a couple walk past it on their way in, didn't even pause. Then a kid, maybe 8 or 9, tugged on his mom's sleeve and pointed to it. "What does it mean?" he asked. The mom stopped, knelt beside him. I couldn't hear her answer, but I saw her gesture, saw her place a hand over her son's shoulder as she talked, saw his head tilt like he was thinking about it. Then they walked inside. Jamie looked at me. "You didn't just stop them," she said. "You started something." I didn't reply. Didn't need to. We stood there for another minute. People came and went. Some noticed the plaque, some didn't. Didn't matter. It was part of the place now, part of the wall. Jamie checked her watch. "I gotta go. Night rotation, ambulance company out of Riverside. You'll do fine." "I've got good instincts," she said. "Learn from the best." She gave me one last hug, then jogged off toward the parking lot. I stayed, just stood there in the entryway, listening to the low rumble of conversation, clink of glasses, forks on plates. No whispers this time, no stares, no tension buzzing under the surface. Just a place full of people trying to enjoy their lives. I walked past the plaque one more time before heading out. Didn't flinch, didn't linger, just let it be there. The way it should be. He asked to meet 2 days after I saw the plaque, texted me out of nowhere. "You free to talk? Just talk. I'll go where you say." I told him, public, neutral, no drama. We ended up at Berkeley Riverfront Park, on a weathered bench facing the Missouri. Quiet spot. No cameras, no crowd. Just wind off the water and the slow creak of a barge drifting somewhere out past the bend. Dan got there before me. Jeans, hoodie, no cologne for once. Looked older than I remembered. He stood when I walked up, then sat again quick, like he wasn't sure what the rules were. I stayed standing for a second, then sat down on the far end of the bench. He cleared his throat. "I don't know where to start," he said, "but I guess I should start with, I'm sorry." I didn't answer. He kept going. Not just about that night, or the emails, or the jokes, all of it. He looked down at his hands. "I was scared. I mocked you because I was scared of what you stood for." I looked at him then. He wasn't faking it. His face was tight, not dramatic, just stripped down. He glanced over. "You were brave in ways I couldn't be." And I hated that. I needed you to stay small so I could stay comfortable. And when you didn't, I made it about you instead of me. I let the silence hang for a few beats. Then I said, "I don't hate you, but I also don't care your version of me anymore." He looked like he wanted to cry, but held it back. "I don't even know who you are now." "That's fine," I said. "You're not supposed to." "You're supposed to listen?" He nodded, slow, took a deep breath. "Is there a way we can start over?" I looked out at the water. The river moved steady, brown and wide, dragging leaves and sticks and trash along like it didn't care what they used to be. "Maybe," I said. "But it starts with you learning to shut up and listen." He cracked the smallest smile. "I can do that." "Don't say it. Do it." We sat there a few more minutes, not talking, just breathing the same air, in the same spot, not fighting. When I stood up, he didn't follow right away. I didn't hug him. He didn't ask. He just said, "Thanks for meeting me." I nodded once and walked off. Not siblings healed, but siblings honest. And for now, that was enough. 2 days later, I walked into the cafe again. Same chipped counter, same hum of the cooler in the back. Morning light poured through the windows like it always did, soft but direct. Jamie was wiping down the front table when she saw me. Her smile cracked wide. She tossed the rag on the counter and waved me over. We sat by the window. 2 black coffees. No sugar, no small talk. She reached into her apron and pulled out a folded paper, creased like she'd checked it 100 times. Passed, she said, grinning. Top third of my class. I smiled. You earned that. She looked down at her cup for a second, then back at me. You made me believe strong didn't mean loud. That hit harder than I expected. Because I'd been loud, once, fighting for space, for credit, for backup. Then I stopped. Thought maybe if I went quiet, I could survive longer. Turns out there's strength in silence, too. When it comes from action, not fear. We finished our coffees. She got called back behind the counter. I left her there, hands busy, shoulders squared, in a life she'd built from the wreckage of one terrible night. On the way home, I passed the restaurant. I didn't mean to, didn't plan it, just walked by. The plaque was still there, same spot, same words. Someone had cleaned it recently, probably the manager. Brass caught the sunlight just right. A little girl in a pink coat pointed at it. Mom, what's that for? Her mom leaned down beside her and said something quiet, something only for them. The girl nodded and kept walking. I watched them disappear into the crowd. I didn't stop, didn't flinch, didn't linger, just let it stay behind me, where it belonged. Part of the sidewalk, part of the wall, part of the story, sure, but not the whole thing, not a monument, not a brand, just a reminder. 15 seconds, that's all it was. Not something to frame, not something to carry, just a moment where I acted. And for once, I wasn't misunderstood. Not a headline, not a warning, just a person who did what had to be done,